You ever wonder what an app looks like on day one? Before it has all the fancy features and cloud syncing? Well, that's exactly what we're doing today. We are going way back to basics. We're going to deconstruct the DNA of a classic to-do app, just to understand that simple, elegant foundation that really all complex software is built on.
So, let me ask you a question. What's the first real application you ever built? I mean, if you're a developer or you're learning to code, I'm pretty sure I can guess the answer.
Yeah, for so many of us, that first real step into building something that actually does something, it's the classic to-do app. It's kind of like the hello world of full applications, right? It's simple enough that you can actually build it, but it's also complex enough to feel like a real accomplishment. And the project we're diving into today, it's the perfect example of this starting point.
Okay, so what we're looking at specifically is an in-memory console app. Now that sounds a little technical, but it just means two things. First, console. No fancy graphics, no buttons, it all just runs in your command line, in the terminal. And second, and this is the really crucial part, in memory. This means it holds all your to-do items, all your data, only while the program is actually running. The second you close that window, poof, it's all gone. And that's not a bug, okay? For phase one, that's the whole point.
All right, so if it just forgets everything the moment you close it, what's even the point, right? What can this Phase I app actually do? Well, let's break down the 5 core functions that make it tick.
So it's built around these 5 fundamental operations. And that's it. No more, no less. You can add a task, you can delete one, you can update an existing one, you can view the whole list, and of course, you can mark things as complete or incomplete. This is the absolute bare bones functionality, the essential skeleton of any task manager out there.
Let's make this feel a bit more real. So, picture this. You fire up the app in your console. You get a simple menu, and you choose Add Task. The app then asks you for a title. That's required. And then an optional description. You type it in, hit Enter, and boom! That task now exists. For this session at least.
And this really highlights the app's whole philosophy. Keep it simple. When you go to view your tasks, you're not going to see some complex dashboard. Nope, it's just a clean list with a super simple visual cue. A little X for incomplete and a check mark for complete. It's clear, it's direct, and it just gets the job done.
Okay, so we get what it does. But honestly, for a foundational project like this, the how is way more interesting. How is this thing actually organized under the hood? So let's peel back the layers and take a look at the anatomy of this app.
And this right here is a question that trips up so many new developers. I mean, it's one thing to hack something together that works, but how do you organize it? How do you structure the code so it's clean, so it's understandable, and, this is the big one, so it's ready to grow in the future without becoming this tangled, unfixable mess?
Probably the best way to wrap your head around this app structure is to think of it like a really well-run restaurant, where you have different sections and each one is responsible for its own specific job.
So first up, you've got the /CLI folder. That's the command line interface. This is your front of house. Think of it like the waiter who greets you, presents you with a menu of options, takes your order, and then communicates that back to the kitchen. It's everything the user directly sees and interacts with.
Okay, so that order then gets sent to the services folder. And this is the kitchen. This is where the magic happens. It takes the request from the front of house and does all the heavy lifting. Creating tasks, deleting them, updating them, all of that core business logic happens right here, totally separate from what the user is seeing.
And of course, what does every kitchen need? Recipes. That's your model/folder. A recipe defines exactly what goes into a dish, right? Its ingredients, its structure. Well, in the same way, the task model here defines exactly what a task is. It has to have a title, it can have a description, and it always has a completion status. It's the blueprint for all of our data. This separation of concerns, the front of house, the kitchen, the recipes, it's a fantastic start. But every system needs rules to function properly. So let's talk about the boundaries of this app, the rules it enforces, and maybe more importantly, the limitations it just accepts as a phase one project.
Now, what's really interesting here isn't just the rules themselves, it's the discipline they represent. I mean, by requiring a title and setting character limits, the app stops you from entering junk data. By demanding a valid ID before it lets you update or delete something, it prevents all sorts of errors. This isn't just a list of rules. It's like a built-in defense system to keep the data clean and predictable, even in an app this simple.
And this brings us right back to the single most important limitation of phase one. The crucial takeaway here is that this is not a bug. It's a feature of this particular phase. The fact that there's no database, no saving, that was a deliberate choice, designed specifically to keep the initial project scope small and totally manageable.
You know, the list of what this app doesn't do is actually just as important as the list of what it does. There's no data persistence, no categories, no tags, no priorities, no due dates. You can't search or filter your tasks, and it's single user only. But you gotta remember, these aren't failures. They are 100% intentional omissions.
And that brings us to the most important idea of all. Because those limitations, they are not the end of the story. Not even close. They're the beginning. They are the signposts that lay out the entire path to evolution and tell us exactly what comes next.
So what really makes this Phase 1? It's not just some label you slap on a project when you're starting out. It's a philosophy. It's the explicit acknowledgement that this is just the first step on a much, much longer journey.
And this right here is the key takeaway for this whole explainer. In software development, especially in the early stages, a limitation isn't a weakness, it's a doorway. It's a clearly defined problem just sitting there waiting for a solution in Phase 2.
Think about it. No persistence yet. That's the reason we're going to add a database. Single user. For now. That's the reason we're going to build user accounts. No search. That's the next step. The limitations of Phase 1 are not an endpoint. They're the roadmap for everything that comes after. They're what turn a simple little script into a real evolving application. So the only question left is, which doorway would you walk through first?